The storm was coming down so hard that night the neon sign outside barely stayed lit. Inside the diner, I was sitting behind the counter counting out the last of my cash. $47. That's all I had to my name. And there was a letter under the register reminding me that in 7 days, this little diner, my home, my life's work, would belong to the bank. The coffee in the pot had gone bitter hours ago, but I poured myself a cup anyway, more for the warmth than the taste. I'd been staring at the same cracked linoleum floors and empty booths for years now, but that night it felt like they were staring back, waiting for me to finally give up. I thought about Robert, my late husband. He used to sit in booth 4, smiling even when things were rough. "This place is going to be a beacon baby," he'd say, "a light for travelers." But that night, the only light was the flickering neon buzzing like it was ready to die, same as me. I had my hand on the light switch, ready to close early when I heard it, the sound of engines deep and rumbling like thunder rolling through the mountains. At first I thought it was a snowplow. Then headlights cut through the blizzard and shapes started appearing out of the white. Motorcycles. Big ones. 15 of them crawling into my parking lot, snow piling on their leather jackets, exhaust clouding in the freezing air. My heart nearly stopped. I'd seen enough TV to know what kind of men rode in packs like that. One rider, taller than the rest, got off his bike and started limping toward the door. His beard was streaked with gray, his face hard but tired. He knocked gently 3 soft taps that somehow felt polite. I glanced at the foreclosure notice, at the cash register, at his eyes through the glass. Something in me, maybe Robert's voice, said, "Don't turn them away." So I unlocked the door and the wind slammed into me so hard I nearly fell back. They filed in one by one, shaking snow off their boots. These men were huge, covered in tattoos and scars. Their jackets carried patches I recognized even from the news, the Death's Head logo. Hell's Angels. Every instinct screamed for me to lock myself in the kitchen. But then I noticed how they moved, careful not to knock over chairs, wiping their boots clean before stepping on my floor. The leader, he introduced himself as Jake, took off his gloves and said, "Ma'am, we won't cause any trouble. We just need somewhere warm. We'll pay for food and coffee." I don't know why, but I said, "Sit wherever you like." Maybe it was the way they looked at me, not like a target, but like a lifeline. I went to the kitchen, scraped together everything I had left, half a loaf of bread, a few cans of soup. They ate in silence at first, grateful, tired. The young one, Danny, couldn't have been more than 22. He looked like he belonged in a college library, not with men like these. Later that night, Jake came up to the counter for a refill and spotted the foreclosure notice sticking out from under the register. He didn't say anything right away, just handed me his mug. Then he said quietly, "How long do you have?" 7 days, I admitted. "But that's my problem, not yours." "The hell it is," he said, his voice soft but sharp. "You opened your doors to us when you didn't have to. That makes it our problem too." I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "You can't fix this with a tip, Jake. It's 15 grand I don't have. This place is done." He didn't argue, just nodded slowly, then looked at me in a way that made my chest tighten. "Don't give up yet." As the storm raged on, we started talking. Marcus, their sergeant-at-arms, told me I looked familiar. Turns out 12 years ago, his brother-in-law, Tommy Patterson, had a heart attack in my parking lot. I remembered that night like a lightning flash. The ambulance couldn't get through because of a rock slide, so I drove him myself. Stayed with him at the hospital. "You saved his life," Marcus said. He tells that story every Thanksgiving. Then Pete, the quiet one, told me about the time he broke down out here in a storm, and Robert helped him fix his bike. Carlos shared how I'd given him directions and a sandwich the night his daughter was in an accident. And Danny's voice was so soft, we all leaned in to hear him. "I came here 3 years ago," he said, staring into his coffee. "I was broke. I didn't have anywhere to go. Honestly, I wasn't planning on seeing tomorrow." My stomach dropped. "You gave me a free meal," he whispered, eyes wet. "Told me it was okay not to know where I was headed. Gave me a card for a friend who might have work. That job saved me. These guys, they became my family. You saved me that night. I had to step away before they saw me cry. I'd always thought of this diner as a pit stop. Never realized it might have been someone's lifeline. Around midnight, Jake grabbed his phone and stepped out into the storm. He was gone for nearly an hour, pacing in the snow, his breath clouding in the headlights. When he came back, he didn't say much, just poured himself more coffee and said, "Tomorrow morning." By 2 a.m., the wind was howling so hard the windows rattled. Then through the snow, I saw headlights. Not just a few dozens. Trucks, sedans, bikes. The first man through the door was a giant with a red beard. He scooped me up in a bear hug before I could react. "Sarah Morgan," he boomed. "You beautiful angel. Tommy Patterson, in case you don't remember. You saved my life, and I've been looking for a way to pay you back ever since." People kept coming. Men and women I didn't recognize, but who somehow remembered me. Some hugged me. Others just sat down like they were home. And outside, the rumble grew. By dawn, there were more motorcycles than I'd ever seen in my life lined up in rows, snow steaming off their chrome. Hell's Angels from all over Oakland. Phoenix, Salt Lake City riders who wouldn't normally share a highway were all here drinking coffee and swapping stories. Big Mike, president of the Oakland chapter, walked up and shook my hand. 23 years ago, you found me half dead from hypothermia. Rode with me to the hospital. I never forgot. Jake called for quiet and placed a thick envelope on the counter. $68,000, he announced. Cash from every chapter here. I froze. That's too much. I can't. You can. Big Mike cut me off. You're keeping this place running, Sarah. It's not a diner anymore. It's a haven. Then Jake unrolled a set of plans, a remodel for the diner. A biker lounge, expanded parking, maintenance bay. Midnight Haven, Biker Haven, he said with a grin. Official stop for every chapter from California to Colorado. You'll never be empty again. A woman from Salt Lake leaned on the counter. There's one condition, she said. You keep being you. You keep this place safe for travelers. You keep the light on. The CB radio crackled. Breaker 19, this is Road Dog. We got 40 bikes rolling your way from Utah. We ain't letting anything happen to our guardian angel. Cheers erupted. Engines roared outside, echoing through the mountains like a promise. Tommy handed me another envelope. Inside was his old business card, worn from being carried in his wallet for over a decade, and a note. 13 years I've carried this. Time to bring it home. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Jake came over, his hand warm on my shoulder. Last night you didn't see outlaws or headlines. You saw 15 men who needed help. That's why this happened. You reminded us who we are. 6 months later, this little diner was featured in a biker magazine. The parking lot was expanded to hold 100 bikes. Folks said it was the safest place for miles, not because of locks or cameras, but because nobody would dare cross it. Every night, the CB radio lights up, Angel, you still awake? And I answer the same way, lights on. Coffee's hot. Doors open for family. Sometimes I step outside at dusk, look at the mountains, and I can almost hear Robert's voice. Told you this place would be special. Baby. He was right, just not in the way either of us imagined. So tell me, what would you have done? Locked the door, turned away those men because of a patch on their jackets? Or would you have taken the risk like I did, and learned that sometimes the scariest looking people have the kindest hearts? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand. And if this story touched you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness always comes back around.